2016 Helmand, Afghanistan. Sergeant Miguel O'Connell goes missing after an attack. He's officially declared dead, killed in action. But his wife, Sophia, never believes he's really gone. 9 years later, San Diego. Sophia is scrolling through Instagram and sees a photo that stops her cold. The man in the picture looks exactly like Miguel. He's living under a different name, with another family. From that moment on, she starts searching for the truth. And nothing will ever be the same for any of them. 2025 San Diego, California. Sophia wakes up in the middle of the night. It's quiet. The clock says 2 a.m. She reaches over and turns on the bedside lamp, sits up, and leans against the headboard. She's had the same dream again. Miguel, in his uniform, is walking away from her, across the desert sand, without looking back. She's dreamed it hundreds of times over the last 9 years. She can't sleep through a single night. She gets out of bed and goes to the living room, pouring herself a glass of water. Outside, everything is dark. She opens Instagram on her phone. She doesn't really have a reason. It's just something to do to keep her mind busy. An account of a travel blogger pops up on her main page. It's probably something the app suggested. The username is Viaja con Sol, someone who posts photos of families traveling around Europe. She quickly looks at some pictures. A family in Spain, a couple on a Greek beach, another couple in front of a church in London. Sophia is about to keep scrolling, but the fourth picture stops her. In the photo, a man is holding a young boy who looks about 5 or 6 years old. Next to him, a dark-haired woman is smiling. They're in a park in London, Kensington Gardens, it seems. Everything looks normal, except for the man's face. Sophia zooms in on the photo. At first, she isn't sure, but when she looks closer, she sees a small scar near his left eye. Miguel got that scar during training when he was 19. Most people wouldn't notice it, but Sophia remembers. She's touched that scar hundreds of times. She takes a screenshot and goes straight to the man's tagged account. The account is public. Name: Liam Williams, Chief Executive Officer of Holcroft Dynamics. Location: Kensington, London. She scrolls down. There are photos of business trips, conferences, and pictures with the boy, whose name is Oliver. Some photos are with a woman named Emma, who is introduced as his wife. They've both been in posts for the last 7 years. Sophia sits silently. She starts carefully looking at each post. Dates, what's in the pictures, everything. She prints out each photo from the small printer on her desk and writes down important dates on a piece of paper. Miguel disappears. May 2016. Official declaration of death. August 2016. First photo of Liam on Instagram, June 2017. Appears with Emma, starting in mid-2018. Oliver is born in 2019. She gasps. It all fits together in a strange way. Too well. If this is a coincidence, it's the worst coincidence of her life. She opens up old photos of Miguel again, wedding photos, photos of him holding their newborn daughter, Luna. She compares every detail, every look, every pose. The man called Liam. It can't be anyone else. Sophia sits there until dawn. She doesn't cry. She just looks at the photos in silence. She doesn't feel anger or happiness. Just one question in her head. Why? 9 years ago, she got a call from Miguel's unit commander. They told her he'd been attacked, that he was missing, and that they couldn't find his body. 3 months later, she got the death notification. There was no funeral, just a memorial service. At that time, she stood with Luna in front of the memorial, listening as they read her husband's name, but there was no coffin. Now, that man, he might still be alive, but living a completely different life, with a wife, with a son, in another country, with another name. Sophia goes to a flight booking website and books the first flight to London for the next morning. She doesn't tell anyone. She doesn't tell her family. She doesn't ask for advice. She knows this could be dangerous. It could be a mistake. But if there's even a tiny chance of hope, She needs to know the truth. She gathers what she needs: some clothes, a file with the death certificate, photos of Miguel in the army, wedding photos, Luna's birth certificate. She puts everything in a bag and zips it up. Before leaving the house, she stops in front of a photo of Miguel on the shelf. The photo is old and faded, but it's all the faith she has left. She says quietly, "I don't know who you are anymore, but I'm going to find out." Heathrow Airport, the next morning. Sophia walks out of the arrival gate and takes a taxi to a coffee shop near Kensington. From there, she opens a map and looks up the address of Holcroft Dynamics. She writes down the street number and name. She also saves a screenshot of a recent post. Liam is with Emma and Oliver in front of a 2-story white house. Sophia uses Google Maps to check and finds out the house is only a few streets away from the office. Early the next morning in London, Sophia is standing on the sidewalk in the Kensington neighborhood. The weather is cold and the pavement is wet with dew. She's wearing a thick coat with her head covered by a hood and holding a steaming paper cup of coffee in her hand. In front of her is number 11, the 2-story white house with flowers around the entrance. She's been standing there for almost half an hour, pretending to wait for a car. But really, she's watching. And then the door opens. The man comes out, wearing a thin sweater and slippers, carrying a trash bag. She holds her breath. He walks past her, not paying attention. She turns away, looking at the ground, her heart racing. He opens the lid of the trash can, throws the bag in, and goes back into the house. It's Miguel. There's no doubt. The way he walks, his height, the sound of his voice as he calls to his wife inside the house. "Emma, the hot coffee is ready." For the whole day, Sophia does nothing but sit in the nearby coffee shop. She watches everything from a distance. At 8 a.m., Miguel leaves the house. He's wearing a shirt, carrying a leather briefcase, and gets into his private car parked in front of the house. Oliver, the boy, leaves later with his mother, wearing a school uniform. Liam leans in to kiss his wife's head, kisses his son on the cheek, and then drives off. It's a regular routine. The next day is exactly the same. Emma, his current wife, stays at home most of the time, occasionally going to the nearby supermarket. She smiles and talks to the neighbors. Oliver goes to school during the day. In the afternoon, the two of them pick up Liam at the front door. A normal, happy family, but not Sophia's. On the morning of the third day, Sophia decides not to wait any longer. She goes straight to Holcroft Dynamics, where Liam works. The office is in a modern glass building in the South Bank area. She dresses formally, shirt, long coat, her hair tied back in a bun. She walks into the reception area and says in clear English, "I'm a private investor from the United States, and I'd like to meet Mr. Liam Williams in person to discuss a possible partnership." After some calls to check her story, she's taken to the 6th floor. She sits in the waiting room, which has glass walls overlooking the street. A few minutes later, the door opens. The man walks in and shakes her hand gently. "Good morning, I'm Liam Williams." Sophia freezes. This is the man who hugged her at her wedding, who knelt beside her bed when she gave birth, who promised, "I'll be back." And now he's standing in front of her like a complete stranger. She holds out her hand. His hand is warm and firm. There isn't a hint of hesitation in his eyes. She tries to keep her voice calm. "Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I won't take up much of your time." She opens her notebook, pretending to get out a document. But instead of an investment agreement, she looks directly into his eyes and says, "Do you know the name Miguel O'Connell?" Liam frowns. He shakes his head slightly. "I'm afraid not. Who is that?" Sophia takes a deep breath. "Your name. Before you disappeared in Afghanistan, in May 2014. There's no reaction. His face stays the same. Sophia continues. "Luna, your daughter. Sophia, your legal wife according to your U.S. marriage certificate. Camp Redwood, where you were stationed." Liam stays silent. After a moment, he says quietly, I think you've got the wrong person. Sophia clenches her lips. She understands. This isn't a normal denial. His eyes aren't lying. This man doesn't remember anything. She nods slowly, opens her bag, and takes out a large envelope. Inside is a photo from their wedding in 2012, a death certificate from the U.S. Department of Defense, a photo of Miguel holding his newborn daughter, a handwritten letter that she wrote on her first night in London. She puts the envelope on the table. Without any more explanation, she says just one sentence. You don't have to believe me, but please read what's in here. Read it carefully, and then decide who you are. Liam looks at the envelope. He doesn't touch it. Sophia nods, gets up, and leaves the room. She doesn't look back. When she reaches the lobby, she straightens up and walks out the door. But just as she gets to a stone bench in the lobby, she breaks down. She covers her face with her hands, and for the first time in years, she cries openly. Nobody comes over. Nobody asks what's wrong. A light rain starts falling on the glass roof above her head, mixing with the sobs stuck in her throat, as if everything she's held back for the last 9 years is finally melting into tears. That man didn't betray her. His memories were stolen. And now he's living another life without knowing who he once was. In the bathroom at Holcroft Dynamics, Liam is standing in front of the mirror with his hands on the edge of the sink. Steam is clouding the mirror. He wipes it with his hand, revealing his own face, familiar but unsettling. In his head, a question has been repeating since his meeting with the strange woman, Sophia. If I really was Miguel O'Connell, why don't I remember anything? He doesn't share this with anyone at the company. When he gets home that night, Liam doesn't talk much to Emma. He eats dinner, plays with his son for a while, and then uses the excuse of working late to sit alone in the reading room. On the desk is the envelope that the woman left behind. He looks at it for a long time, and then opens it. Inside are a series of photos. He looks at each one. In the photos, a man in a military uniform is smiling, hugging a dark-haired woman and a newborn baby. Behind them is an American-style house. The man in the photo is him, or at least someone who looks exactly like him. There's also a death certificate printed with the logo of the U.S. Department of Defense. The name, Miguel John O'Connell, died in August 2014 in Helmand, Afghanistan. At the end, there's a handwritten letter in English. The handwriting is neat. If you really are Miguel, then this is what you've forgotten. I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know who you were and who was waiting for you. Liam finishes reading. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't panic, but there's a sinking feeling in his chest. He looks at the photo of the baby, Luna, again. He doesn't see anything clearly, but he feels something tight in his temples, like an old feeling wants to wake up. The next morning, while Emma is making coffee in the kitchen, Liam sits at the table, waiting for her to return. When she serves him coffee, he asks, "Have you ever heard anyone mention a name? Miguel O'Connell?" Emma stops for a second, but she doesn't show it for long. She looks at him, frowning slightly. "Why are you asking that?" "Yesterday someone came to the company. Her name is Sophia. She says, I was a missing American soldier." Emma puts down the coffee pot. She takes a deep breath. She sits down across from him, taking his hand. "Liam, is this happening again? I thought it was over." He frowns. "What thing?" Emma starts to explain, very naturally, very logically. "A few years ago, a woman sent an email claiming to be your ex-wife. I checked it out. She used a fake address, making up all kinds of things. She even came here standing in front of the door, staring at our house. I called the police at the time." Liam stays silent. Emma continues. "They say there are some cases like that. People obsessed with injured American soldiers, pretending to be ex-wives, trying to track them down. There was even a case of blackmail in the South, remember? In 2018. She squeezes his hand. "You don't need to pay attention to those things. I love you for who you are now, not who you were. If I knew something was wrong, I would have told you." Liam doesn't say anything else. Emma starts to cry. She hugs him from behind. "Don't let strangers destroy what we have. You are Liam Williams, my husband, Oliver's father. That's the truth." Miguel looks at Emma for a long time. He doesn't answer right away. He just lowers his head, nodding slightly. It's not an agreement, but more like a nod to end the conversation. "Yes, I'm tired. I need to think a bit." Then he turns and goes into the bedroom, closing the door. The door isn't locked. Inside, the light from his phone reflects on the ceiling as he opens the old search page. Miguel O'Connell, Afghanistan, declared dead. All day, Liam works as usual, but his mind is blank. At night, he lies next to Emma, but he can't sleep. He closes his eyes, but opens them again after a few minutes. In the dark, an image flashes in his mind. The sound of a bomb explosion, a bright light, a woman's voice screaming, "Miguel!" Swing, and then everything goes black. A feeling of cold, and a smell of burning, like gunpowder. Liam sits up straight. Emma is sleeping, not moving. He gets out of bed and goes downstairs. He turns on the computer, opens the browser, and types, "Miguel O'Connell, Afghanistan, missing in action." The first result that comes up is an article from Stars and Stripes. Sergeant Miguel J. O'Connell missing in Helmand, presumed dead after body not found. Wife is Sophia O'Connell. Daughter is named Luna. Liam looks at the screen, not saying a word. He scrolls down and looks at the photo of the soldier in the article. It's the same face he sees in the mirror every day. Miguel, still with the name Liam Williams, is sitting alone in his office at Holcroft Dynamics. The only light in the room is the faint blue glow of the computer monitor. On it, the words are clearly visible. Missing, presumed dead. He's just found the official U.S. Department of Defense record. Sergeant Miguel J. O'Connell, born in 1993, enlisted in 2011. Missing in May 2014 in Helmand, Afghanistan after an ambush. Declared dead in August 2014. Body not found. Family, Sophia O'Connell, wife. Luna O'Connell, daughter. He reads it again and again. The name on the record is his. The picture attached to the article is his own face. It's undeniable. He opens a new tab and types, "Sophia O'Connell Facebook." An account comes up. Public. The profile picture is a little girl hugging a cat, the photo's name. Luna, 7 years old. Sophia doesn't have any new pictures with men. Just pictures of the mother and daughter, then old photos. Wedding photos. Pictures of the baby's birth. Photos of Miguel in his military uniform, smiling brightly. He clicks on every photo. For the first time in 9 years, he sees himself in a life he doesn't remember. But nothing is wrong. Nothing out of place. Nothing staged. Every gesture, every look in the photos. It's him. His hand starts to shake slightly. He steps away from the computer and goes straight home. When Emma asks why he's late, he just says, "There was some work at the company." Then he goes upstairs and into his private office. He searches in the bottom drawer, a drawer he's never noticed before. In the same drawer, there's a neatly wrapped cardboard box. He opens it. An old military dog tag, made of metal, slightly bent, with a bit of dried blood on the corner. On it is engraved, Miguel O'Connell. On the back it says, Type O+, no known allergies. Who put this here? Why did they keep it? He doesn't remember ever seeing this before. That night, he lies back in bed, with his eyes open in the dark. Confused images start to appear in his head. A blue tent with a fabric frame flapping in the desert wind. The smell of antiseptic, the sharp whine of a helicopter. A woman's voice. "Miguel! Hold on, don't fall asleep." And the face of a woman with a mask leaning over him. It's Emma, but younger, wearing a white coat. The next morning, he quietly gets into the car, without going to the company, without telling Emma. He goes straight to Queen Elizabeth Military Hospital, where injured soldiers from the war in Afghanistan who returned to Britain are received. He goes to reception and asks about patients admitted to the hospital in 2014 to 2015. When he gives the name Liam Williams, the receptionist checks the system and then shakes her head. We don't have any record of that name. He takes out his phone and opens one of the photos from Sophia's envelope that he's saved on his phone. He shows it to her. This person was brought back from Afghanistan unconscious. He doesn't remember his name. He may have been admitted to the hospital under a false name or no name. The elderly woman behind the counter looks at the photo for a long time. She calls an older nurse from inside. The nurse looks at the photo, squints her eyes, and then remains silent for a few seconds. Finally, she says slowly, "I remember someone like that." He couldn't speak. He didn't have any documents. But there was a girl with him, saying she was an acquaintance from outside the battlefield. She was a doctor. "What was the doctor's name?" Miguel asks. The nurse replies, "Emma. Emma Carter." He falls silent. He just turns around, thanks her, and leaves the lobby. On the sidewalk in front of the hospital, he stops and looks up at the lead-gray sky. In his hand, he grips his phone. He opens his contact list, looking for the international number he just saved from yesterday, Sophia's number. His finger presses the call button. The phone rings. Once. Twice. When the other line answers, he doesn't speak immediately. But then, his voice hoarse, he utters the first words after 9 years of silence. "Sophia, it's me. We need to talk." The sun has set. Emma enters the study on the second floor. The lights are not on. She goes straight to the desk, where Miguel's laptop is still open. On the screen, the phrase in bold on the browser is still visible. Miguel O'Connell Soldier MIA Helmand, 2014. She freezes there, with both hands on the table, squeezing so hard that the tips of her fingers turn white. She doesn't need any more proof. Miguel is tracking the past. Emma takes a deep breath and then sits down. She opens the browser history. Miguel has been searching for the last 3 days. He's looked for military records, found old articles, opened Sophia's Facebook, looked at every photo, typed the keywords Camp Redwood, MIA, Afghanistan, evac list. Emma is not wrong. He is deeply suspicious. The next morning, when Miguel goes out to buy coffee as usual, Emma takes the opportunity to search his phone, something she has never done before. In the call log, she sees a short line. +1, international number, call, ended 2 minutes 17 seconds. It's an international call from the United States. She understands immediately. He has contacted Sophia. Emma grips the phone tightly and then puts it back carefully. When Miguel returns, she already has a plan in place. That night, dinner is ready earlier than usual. She opens a bottle of red wine, lays out the tablecloth, and cooks the salmon that Miguel likes so much. Oliver has gone to bed early. Everything is quiet. Miguel sits at the table but hardly says anything. He eats little and drinks water instead of wine. Every time Emma says something, laughing, he just nods without responding. Emma can't take it anymore. When they are both sitting at the table, she puts down her glass and says directly, "You're destroying this family just for a dream that isn't real." Miguel looks up. Emma continues, "I was by your side when you didn't know who you were. I took care of you every day and every night. You survived because of me. I was the one who brought you back to life." She gets up and walks around the table. Now someone comes along and says, "I'm your ex-wife," and then gives you some old photos, some lines from letters. Is that enough? Luna, a baby? Who guarantees that she's your daughter? Miguel stays, sitting silently. He waits for her to finish speaking. Then he answers, in a low voice, "I don't know who I am. But I'm sure that I wasn't born in London." That sentence is like a stab that cuts through the air. Emma freezes, and then suddenly she shouts and smashes the wine glass on the floor. The glass shatters into pieces. Fragments of glass scatter all over the tiled floor. She cries, loudly, "I won't let you go! You're mine! Mine!" Miguel doesn't say anything else. He gets up from the table and goes up to his room. He closes the door. Emma doesn't follow him. But that night, she takes action. She hides Miguel's car keys. She deletes all the browser history. She changes the password on the personal computer. She restores parental controls on Oliver's phone. She schedules virtual meetings with partners, faking emails from Miguel to prevent him from leaving. The next day, when Miguel asks why he can't open his laptop, Emma just says, "Company security is updating the system." She rearranges all the schedules, keeps a close eye on travel plans, even calls the company to verify if Miguel leaves the building. But Miguel is no longer the man with amnesia he once was. He stays silent, but remembers everything. He lets Emma think she's holding him back while he quietly prepares. And then, at dawn, around 5 in the morning, Emma wakes up to a draft. The bed next to her is empty. She sits up sharply and goes downstairs. The door to the house is slightly open. On the table in the living room, there's a photo. Miguel in his military uniform, standing in front of the door of his old house, hugging Sophia and a newborn baby. Next to it is a handwritten note. The sentence is clear: "I'll be back when I know exactly who I am." A misty dawn in Southwark. Miguel is standing in front of the door of a 3-story guest house. In his hand, he clutches a piece of paper with an address, the handwritten script slightly tilted. "Apartment 2B Oldbury Row, Southwark." He doesn't knock on the door right away. His eyes are staring at the old plastic sign next to the doorframe. S. O'Connell. Inside, Sophia is making coffee. She stops halfway. She feels there's someone at the door without needing to look through the curtain. She knows. That feeling is unmistakable. She opens the door. Before her stands Miguel, who died 9 years ago, and then revived under another name, in another life. The two look at each other. They don't hug. They don't say anything in the first few seconds. They just stand still, their eyes meeting, between two people who were once everything to each other. Miguel is the first to speak. "I don't remember everything, but I remember you made me feel like a good person." Sophia nods slightly, avoiding eye contact, bending to invite him in. They sit in the small kitchen with yellow-painted walls. That's where Sophia has lived for the last 9 years, raising a child and keeping the past with photos hanging all over the house. Miguel looks at an old photo hanging next to the refrigerator. In it is a 3-year-old girl with a yellow wool hat, smiling brightly in the backyard. He reaches out and gently touches the wooden edge. Then he turns around and asks, "Does Luna know who I am?" Sophia pours coffee, puts it on the table, and answers slowly. "She doesn't remember you by your picture, but she remembers you by instinct. I never lied to her. I just said, 'Dad is gone, but if he's alive, he'll find a way back.'" She opens a drawer and takes out a drawing book. She puts it on the table. "Luna drew this last year. I didn't give her any instructions." Miguel opens it. One page draws 3 people, a woman, a girl, and a man standing next to each other. The man has no face, just a faint crossed scar on his left cheek. Miguel grips the notebook in his hand without saying anything, but his eyes don't leave the page. He recounts every part of his memory that he has recovered. He was wounded after an ambush in Helmand. The doctor took him out. He doesn't remember her name. He doesn't know anything. A piece of paper temporarily stuck to his wrist. L. Williams evac number 392. Transfer to 2 field medical stations. When he woke up, the memory was completely blank. The only person by his side was the doctor named Emma. Miguel finishes speaking. Sophia doesn't interrupt. She just listens. After a moment of silence, she says clearly, "I don't need you to come back to start again. I'm not forcing you to be my husband again. I just want you to know that from now on, I don't have to imagine you lying somewhere in the sand anymore." Miguel nods slowly, without refuting, without agreeing, just looking down at the table. After a moment, he says, "I can't go back. I can't walk into the old house like a father who has just returned from a business trip. I can't rebuild what has been in ruins for so long." Sophia doesn't ask anything else. She gets up, goes into the room, and then returns with a small envelope. "Tomorrow Luna doesn't have school. If you want to meet her, I'll take her to the nearby park at 10 in the morning." Miguel takes the envelope. He doesn't open it. When he is about to leave, Sophia accompanies him to the door. He puts his hand on the door handle, ready to open it, but Sophia gently touches his arm. For the first time at the meeting, she touches him. She says, "I forgive you, even if it's not your fault." Miguel looks at her. He nods once, then leaves. That night, he is sitting in a small hotel room near Waterloo Station. The lights are not on. He only has one thing in his hand, Luna's drawing, the paper he kept in his wallet. He opens his wallet and takes out a check he had prepared in advance. The amount, £1 million sterling. Beneficiary, Sophia O'Connell for her daughter Luna. He places the check on the table and then turns on the computer. He writes the title of the new email: Trust Fund Plan Luna and Oliver Final Transfer Proposal. In the attached file is a plan to sell all Holcroft Dynamics shares, a list of 3 independent accounts for Luna, Oliver, and Emma, a separate account for medical and educational expenses, a contract that authorizes a law firm to manage the finances. At the bottom of the document, there's just a short line: Manchester nobody knows. Emma opens the wardrobe. It's empty. She runs to the study. The laptop is gone. The drawer also doesn't have the car key. She looks up at the desk. Only a few carefully folded papers remain. She takes them and reads them. A power of attorney that transfers all Holcroft Dynamics shares. An order to establish 2 independent financial funds for Luna and Oliver. A draft of a resignation letter, unsigned. Not a word of farewell. Emma collapses to the floor. For the first few minutes, she just breathes heavily, gripping the edge of the table. But then she gets up. Her face returns to normal. The action mode is activated. At noon of the same day, she calls the legal department of Holcroft Dynamics. "I am the legal co-owner of the company. I request the temporary freezing of all transfer transactions in the system until the validity of the signature and the mental state of Liam Williams is fully verified." She uses her internal prevention title without the need for a court order. That afternoon, she sends a short email to Sophia. Just one line: "You won. But just a small mistake, and you'll lose what you have left. I'm not someone who gives up easily." Emma hires a professional tracking unit. She points out 2 names: Sophia O'Connell, currently in Southwark; Liam Williams, his whereabouts are currently unknown. Objective: to find out if they meet, if they go anywhere together, and if they intend to meet. On the night of the 3rd day, the report arrives. Target Liam appears in Southwark Park, accompanied by Sophia and a girl of about 9 years old. No intimate contact. They don't stay together. Emma tears the paper in her hand to pieces. She opens her computer and checks the funds that Miguel has created. In the beneficiary account section, she sees the name Luna O'Connell next to Oliver Williams. Emma understands the intention immediately. Miguel is about to completely withdraw from her life, but continues to leave a responsibility with his son. The next day, Emma goes to Oliver's school. She meets with the headmaster and requests an additional security requirement. "If any unknown man approaches my son, even if he's his biological father, if I'm not present, I will sue the entire school." Her voice is even, not loud, but her eyes don't blink. That night at dinner, Oliver asks, "Mom, is it true that Dad was someone else? Why do I see him so sad?" Emma looks at her son, not responding immediately. After a while, she just says, "No one is going to take your father away from you. No one." 3 days later, Emma goes to the law firm that helped Miguel draft the asset protection agreement. She requests, activate the unusual asset dispersal clause. Consider a request for mental assessment based on changes in memory and unusual behavior. temporarily suspend transactions with emotional elements. But when the lawyer asks, "Is there any old medical record?" Zrение. Emma uходит домой и enters Miguel's safe. She searches every file. Finally, she finds an unlabeled envelope. Inside is a handwritten letter, in a familiar handwriting, Miguel's, sent to Oliver. Never sent. "Son, you may wonder why Dad didn't stay, but I'm not abandoning you. I'm choosing to step back so as not to hurt two worlds at the same time. I'm still your father. Forever." Emma reads to the last line, and then, without hesitation, she throws the letter into the fireplace, lights a match. The paper burns line by line. Night falls. Emma is sitting alone in the living room. She doesn't turn on the lights. There's only a small candle on the table. The light flickers on her tired face. Her hand moves around the phone. It stops on a name. Sophia O'Connell Mobile. She presses call. The phone rings. 3 times. The other line answers. There's no greeting. Emma says in a low voice, "Did you think you just needed to come and get him back? You don't understand what I've sacrificed, but I won't sit idly by." The other line remains silent. Emma waits a few seconds and then hangs up before Sophia can respond. She leaves the phone on the phone on the table, sits silently, watching the candle drip. The light dims, but in her head, a new plan is forming. She opens a drawer and takes out Oliver's homework notebook. In the middle, there's a photo of the family: mother, father, and son. In the photo, the father's face is colored with 2 colors. The left half has a scar, the right half is blurred, as if it can't be identified. Emma tears the paper and puts it in her jacket pocket. Tomorrow morning, she will go to school. She needs to talk to the tutor again about prohibiting strangers from contacting her son, even if they are just talking at the school door. She also schedules an appointment with another law firm without going through Miguel's system. This time, she wants to find out if she can apply for a court order to monitor Miguel remotely, if she can prove that he shows signs of memory instability that affect his responsibility as a father. She's already lost that man once. This time, if he doesn't stay with her, he won't be allowed to be a complete father to anyone. Now, Emma doesn't need Miguel to come back, but she will hold on to the only part she can retain: Oliver. And that will be the beginning of the days when Miguel thought he was gone, but he was dragged back. In the eastern outskirts of Manchester, in an old industrial area, there's a sawmill called Hilford Timber and Craft. Of the 12 carpenters there, no one knows more than their uniform name. Miguel has been there since the beginning of the month. They call him Mick. He doesn't explain. He doesn't tell anything. He just works. 48 hours a week. His job is to grind the edges, polish, cut wood. He always arrives early, leaves late, and doesn't communicate beyond work. The room he rents is on the 3rd floor of a row of guest houses near the yards. A single room, no photos, no TV, no Wi-Fi. Every night, after a simple boxed meal, he writes a few lines in a notebook. Some are for Luna, others for Oliver, but he doesn't send them. He just copies them by hand and then saves them. At the beginning of each month, he transfers fixed money to 2 accounts, one in the name of Sophia O'Connell, another in the name of Emma Carter. No messages, no delays. With the 2 children, he uses a different method. He creates a mailbox by hand, sending private letters to each child with children's books, stickers, and sometimes some study tips. In each letter, he says, "Don't tell Mom. This is between you and Dad." Once, when Luna opened the family email, she saw a notification. Oliver W. has sent a friend request. She hesitated, but then clicked accept. It was the first time that the 2 children, from the same father but a different mother, spoke directly. From small conversations about lessons little by little, Luna and Oliver shared more. They both knew that their father was still alive, but he didn't live with anyone. He didn't belong to anyone. Meanwhile, in London, Emma is losing control. The older Oliver gets, the less he asks his mother, and the more he looks out the window. Every time a car stops in front of the door, the boy runs out and then returns silently. One night, after school, Oliver asked, "Mom, when can I see Dad?" Emma didn't answer. She closed the laptop, picked up the phone, and called Miguel directly. The call lasted less than a minute. Emma said, "If you don't come back to London at least once a week, I won't let Oliver contact you. I'll change schools, cut off all fund accounts, even delete the photos of you." Miguel didn't argue. A while later, Emma received a single message from Miguel's number. "You can do that, but Oliver will remember." Emma didn't respond. But the next morning, Oliver found that his mailbox was blocked. He wanted to send messages forever, but he couldn't. The boy sat silently in front of the computer without saying a word. Miguel still arrived at the sawmill on time. He still sat down to eat his boxed lunch at noon. He still picked up the book, Father and Son 100 Stories, when he came back. That night, he opened a new envelope. Inside was a drawing of Luna, 2 children standing on each side, with a man standing in the middle. The man has no face, just a faint crossed scar on his left cheek. Above it is an awkward sentence. "If Dad leaves forever, Oliver and I will call ourselves brothers, to remember instead of Dad." Miguel finished reading. He folded it. He didn't cry. He didn't react. He just wrote in the notebook, in small letters, "Day 32 couldn't meet. Day 33 still sends letters. Day 34 continues to be a father, even if it's from a distance." Miguel turned off the lights early. The clock said 9:30 p.m. The room was dark, only the light from the phone was reflected on the screen. He opened the banking app, checking the last 2 transactions. £1,200 for Sophia, for L. £1,000 for Emma, support OW. He saved the receipt and deleted the browsing history, folded the computer and put it on the bookshelf. Near it was the drawing book that Luna had given him, already worn out. Miguel took a pencil and wrote a line under the note from day 34. "Don't let anyone decide who the children's parents are." He looked at the clock again. 10 p.m. Outside the window, the horn of a truck passing through the industrial area resonated. Every night in Manchester was the same. Nobody called him by his name. Nobody was waiting at the door. Nobody needed to explain anything. At the same time, in London, Emma was still awake. She was reviewing Miguel's message. "You can do that, but Oliver will remember." She repeated that line over and over, then opened the computer and searched for a legal advice center on child custody when parents disagree. Her hand moved slightly to the Send Emergency Request box. One Saturday afternoon, it was raining heavily in London. Emma was making tea in the kitchen. At 5 p.m., Oliver didn't return as usual. She called her son's phone. She couldn't contact him. She checked the location app. It had been deactivated since 3:20 p.m. On her desk, she found a small piece of paper, folded in half. "I'm going to find Dad." Emma panicked. She immediately called 999, reporting a missing child. She provided name, age, photos, description of clothing, dark blue jacket, red backpack. The police asked her to stay calm. They started tracking the cameras around the school. 45 minutes later, the data arrived. Teenage male, matching the description, boarded bus number 69 at Fairbanks Station, heading towards Manchester. Emma dropped into a chair. Her heart was beating hard. Her hands wouldn't stop swiping on her phone. She called the police again. She called the law firm. She even called the children's hospital. At the same time, Luna received a short email from Oliver's secondary account. "I want to go find Dad. I can't take it anymore. Mom keeps yelling, prohibiting, blocking the phone. I need to breathe." Luna didn't respond. She called her mother directly. Sophia answered on the second ring. Immediately, she called Miguel. At the sawmill in Manchester, Miguel was cleaning a cutting machine when he heard the phone vibrating. He saw Sophia's name. Only one sentence was uttered. "Oliver has disappeared. He's on his way to you." Miguel grabbed his jacket, leaving the tools in the middle of the sawmill. Without explanation, without locking the door, he ran 4 blocks to the bus station in East Manchester. The rain hadn't stopped. He quickly checked the schedule for line 69. The closest one had just arrived 15 minutes ago. He followed the cameras at the station, asking security guards. After 20 minutes, he finally saw a boy huddled next to a phone booth with his arms around his backpack, his jacket soaked. Miguel swooped in, hugging his son tightly. There were no tears. There were no reproaches. Just one question. "Are you hungry?" Oliver nodded. That night, Miguel took Oliver to his rented room. He changed clothes, warmed up, and ate boxed noodles. The boy didn't talk much. He just whispered, "I don't want Mom to cry anymore, but I don't want Dad to disappear either." Miguel didn't respond. He spread more blankets, placing a pillow nearby. He didn't sleep. He just watched his son all night. 6:45 in the morning. Loud knocks on the door. Miguel opened the door. Emma was there, with a pale face, her jacket wet from the rain, with the phone in her hand. Without greeting, she ran to the room, straight to the bed. "Oliver!" The boy was dressed in a sweater, sitting drinking milk. He looked at his mother. He didn't run towards her. He wasn't scared. He just sat there. Emma came closer, her voice choked up. "You're driving me crazy. Why are you leaving like that?" Oliver stood up. For the first time, he looked directly into his mother's eyes, in a calm voice. "I will go home with you, but you can't stop me from seeing Dad again." Emma froze. Nobody in the room said anything else. Just the ticking of the wall clock as the seconds passed. The air was dense. She looked at Miguel. He didn't say anything. He just pulled up a chair, sitting silently next to him. Oliver came closer and took his mother's hand. "If you love me, you can't hate Dad, because I'm half of Dad." Emma hugged her son. Her hand was trembling, unable to force anything. When she looked up, her eyes were red. She didn't shout. She didn't cry like the other times. She whispered, "I have lost. Not because of her, not because of you, but because I have been too selfish." Emma didn't say anything else. After listening to Oliver, she just stood up, squeezed her son's hand, and then turned to Miguel. "I'll give you 1 more hour, then I'm taking my son home." Miguel nodded. Emma went out into the hall, leaving the door ajar. She stood under the awning. The rain had stopped. Only a few drops were left falling on the roof. Inside the room, Oliver sat in a chair, holding a piece of bread that was left. Miguel poured more milk into his son's glass. "When you left that day, were you carrying a map?" I just remembered that the bus station had the word Manchester on it. Miguel nodded slightly. He didn't ask any more questions. Miguel nodded slightly. He remained silent for a few seconds, then leaned over and gently stroked his son's hair. "Very well. Remember the way. Decide for yourself. You have more ability than I thought." Oliver didn't respond. But the corner of his mouth moved up slightly, very slightly. Oliver pulled a small envelope out of his backpack and gave it to Miguel. "Luna asked me to bring this." Inside there was a new drawing, 2 wooden chairs placed under a tree, one side with the word Dad Mick, one side Dad Miguel. Next to it, 2 children were holding hands, smiling. Miguel looked for a long time. He folded the drawing and put it in the side pocket of the notebook. "I think I've figured it out. From now on, I'll meet you 2 in another way, but nobody will be able to stop it." Oliver nodded. He didn't ask what the other way was, but the boy understood that his father wouldn't live with anyone, but he wouldn't leave again. Outside, Emma looked at the gray sky. Her hand was holding the phone, turning it without opening it. She knew that from that day on, all the limits of control had been broken. The door behind Miguel didn't close, but there was no way back either. In front of him was the only way, to withdraw from both sides, keeping only the one role that still deserved, to be a father, 6 months later. At the 6th grade parents' meeting at the International School of London, the courtroom was almost full. Sophia sat in the row on the left. Emma sat in the row on the right. The two mothers didn't talk, they didn't make eye contact. But when they accidentally crossed paths, they nodded slightly, as a way of acknowledging each other's existence in the two children's world. Miguel wasn't present. He hasn't returned to London or New York either. After the previous incident, he sent a fixed schedule by mail to the two mothers. Once a month, the first Saturday, I will pick up the two children at Victoria Station, take them to Manchester. I will return them on Sunday in time. Without any more phrases. He never called. In Manchester, Miguel rented land on Salford Lake. He built a small wooden cabin. He worked in the garden and fixed furniture for the neighbors in the area. No internet, no TV. On the bedside table there were two photo frames. One was Luna when she was 3 years old, with a yellow hat, hugging a stuffed rabbit. The other was Oliver standing in front of the school door with a red backpack, smiling a little crookedly. Every weekend, he picked up the two children at the station on time. He didn't ask about their mothers. He didn't mention old times. He just told about the newly cut wood, the right way to sharpen a knife, or the distance a wooden propeller could fly. When eating, each had a separate bowl of noodles. When sleeping, each had a bed on both sides. Before taking them back, he always folded 3 paper boats, wrote the date on the bottom, and then released them into the lake. Luna and Oliver continued to contact each other daily by email. The two children weren't the same, but they had become best friends, like two joined halves of two broken worlds. Sometimes they wrote a diary together and sent it to Miguel. Sophia sent handwritten letters from time to time. Miguel, this month Luna has done well in the exams. She's good at science like you. I don't ask if you're okay because if you can still read this letter, you must be okay. There was never a request, no more demands. Emma started therapy. She went to counseling once a week, sitting silently for a long time before speaking. Miguel's name no longer appeared in recent sessions. She had had enough courage to reopen the old box of photos. She only kept photos of Oliver and a single one of Miguel, a photo of him holding his son for the first time in the hospital. The rest she burned. What she couldn't save, she would no longer cling to. In the 6th month, Miguel took the two children to the lake. The sky was slightly sunny. He brought with him an old camera. He placed the camera, adjusted the angle for a long time, and then pressed the shutter. A man, sitting between two children, releasing 3 paper boats into the water. Nobody was smiling brightly, but all 3 were looking in the same direction. That photo, later, was revealed by Luna, framed in a wooden frame and placed on her desk. On the back of the photo, she wrote with a marker, "He's not the father of one family, but he's the father of 2 children, and that's enough." That afternoon, after taking the picture by the lake, Miguel left the camera, signaling to the 2 children to return home. Luna took Oliver by the hand and ran ahead, stepping on the wet dirt path with small specks of mud. Miguel walked slower behind, with his hands in the pockets of his worn-out woolen jacket. When they arrived at the wooden cabin, Oliver cleaned the table. Luna lit the fire. Each did one thing without anyone telling them. After a simple dinner of vegetable soup and toast, the 3 sat by the window, watching the mist rising over the lake. Miguel opened the wooden notebook that recorded each meeting. On each page, he glued small paper boats made from milk boxes, writing the date with black ink. Below each one was a brief phrase of no more than 10 words. Luna says she wants a cat. Oliver brags about having a perfect score in math. Both made a plane that flew more than 5 meters. He closed the book and put it in the secret compartment behind the bookshelf. Nobody could read that book except him. When night fell, Luna and Oliver fell asleep on the 2 small beds placed on either side. Miguel turned off the lights, but still sat there for a while, watching the backs of his children. He didn't have a family, but he had 2 children, enough to keep alive the part of the father inside him that war, memory, and lies had interrupted. The March sky in London was cold as usual. Victoria Station was still crowded every Saturday morning, with people coming and going, dragging suitcases with steaming cups of coffee in their hands. But in the corner of the waiting room, there were 3 people sitting quietly: a middle-aged man with a faded wool jacket, 2 children sitting on either side, each hugging a backpack. Miguel waited until the speaker announced that the train to Manchester would depart in 10 minutes, and then he stood up. He gently took Oliver's hand, signaling Luna to walk alongside. Without needing to say anything, the 3 walked to platform 5. "Dad," Luna said suddenly in a low voice, looking ahead. "This time, I'm going to write an essay about a hero. I'm not going to write about you as a soldier. I'm going to write about you as someone who never runs away." Miguel stopped for a second. He nodded slightly, without answering. When the train started to move, outside the window, Sophia had just arrived. She didn't wave her hand. She just stood there staring, holding the bag with the food she had made herself. Inside, there was an extra slice of carrot cake, the dish that Luna said Dad liked since ancient times. Miguel saw her. He put his hand on the window glass, not so much as a greeting, but as an acknowledgement. The train pulled away, taking with it the blurred image of the station behind. Inside the carriage, Oliver rested his head on Miguel's shoulder. Luna pulled out a small card with carefully written handwriting. "Happy birthday, Dad, from 2 children who don't live with you, but who always remember the way back." Miguel opened his wallet, carefully keeping the card next to the drawing from years ago. Then he closed his eyes, resting his back on the seat. Nobody needed to know who he was or who he had been. He only needed, once a month, on the train back, that there were 2 children sitting next to him. It was enough. Only that, it was already a family. Have you ever had someone leave and never been able to ask why? If you've read this far, maybe the image of a door that never closed has also appeared in you, not because of hope, but because of the doubt that cannot disappear. The story of Sophia, Miguel, and Emma is not just a tragedy of memory and mistaken identity. It's also a reminder that memories can be buried, but the truth, if it's strong enough, will always find a way to come to light. We tell this story based on real events, collected and confirmed over more than a decade. For safety reasons and respect for privacy, the names of the characters, places, and some details have been changed. What you read is not fiction, but a memory told in a different voice of people who lived in the gray area between loss and survival. If this story has made you stop for a moment to think about a person, a time, or a silence that has not been said, please share it on WhatsApp with someone you trust. Maybe it's someone who is looking for answers. Maybe it's someone who needs to know that they are not alone. Or simply, it's a father, a mother, a child, who once had to overcome the pain to keep something right for the future. Send this story. Maybe, somewhere, there is someone waiting to be listened to, just when they need it most. And that's the end. I hope this translation is exactly what you were looking for. It's designed to be easy to understand and relatable to a wide audience.